Welcome to Evenings in the Trailer Park. I don't own this. This is not mine. What happened is, after Hurricane Ishashnishna, the people, these gypsies who live, like these people, mainly that guy, who live here full-time. Well, no, I take that back. They don't live here full-time. They leave their shit here full-time. They go live in a house somewhere else. They leave all their trinkets around, like their lawn chairs, and these ornaments are projectile missiles in storms. And so after the hurricane, when I came back out here, there was lawn chairs and these stupid little signs and all kinds of stuff just all over the place. And it was like that for days because they never come back and check their rigs. So I just Robin Hooded as much of it as I could, and I got this, and then I got some other things, and I'm just gonna have myself a full patio set. Give me another couple days, and if they come back and claim that it's theirs, I will ask for a receipt. And we'll see how that goes. Finders keepers, you lazy ass. What a dreadful week. This has just been an awful week. Terrible. It could be worse. I guess it's not the worst week ever, but it's not great. 2020, and I'm not alone on this, but it has been the year of everything just completely falling apart. Everything that was going great, just evaporating into thin air. You know, every rug that could get pulled out from under you. I had several projects that I put in for, one of which is the second time this year that I have put in for it. And the first time I got rejected and I got over it, and then this time it came back up, and I was so sure that I was going to get this project that I already had the money and I already had the work, and in my brain this was done. And then this week I found out that I didn't get it. And not only did I not get it, I didn't even qualify for like the preliminary. They didn't even want to talk. And then some other projects too, just nothing. It's just been a really dreadful week. And there's, I hate when people ask what your definition of success is, because it always breeds this really hokey answer. But mine legitimately is, you have to have someone you love, someone who loves you, and you have to have something to look forward to. I find anything involving people, so like those first two, to be kind of hit or miss, or I could do without it. So I know I don't count on those, but there's something to look forward to. If you don't have something to look forward to, that's it. It's a very dark time of living. 2020 feels a lot like the year when I got demoted and I knew I had to quit news. And it was a dark year, and I'm trying so hard to not get to a point where it is that dark again, because that year I wasn't sure that I was going to live to see the next year. But it's just been a very disappointing year. So I find out this week that I didn't get all these projects, like one after another. And I did what I think a lot of us, actually I know a lot of us do, because the view counts on these videos are in the millions, and like mine are not. So I type in like motivational video, I'm doing everything I can to like not put my fist through a wall or to go set a kitten on fire. And I start watching these videos, and it's either a compilation of sound bites from famous motivational speakers like Tony Robbins, but it's just this menagerie of nothing. Or it's the podcast motivational, where you've got two dudes like tickling each other's balls for 45 minutes, and they say the same thing. It's always the same thing. It's like, yeah, man, I mean, it's tough, and I just had to like get myself back up and keep on going, keep on pursuing. And the other guy's like, yeah, bro, yeah. It's the same thing. And the women's motivational video they're worse. Because women just they have phrases that they like. So it's these two ladies talking to each other. And the video has 340 million views. And, they say, so I was just in this space. They're all in a space. Or I had this moment. They all have these moments. Spaces and moments. I'm like, bitch, I'm not the only person who has a prescription for Xanax. Like, let me tell you about that space you were in. So let me get this straight. Like, you didn't cry and get angry and you didn't try to justify in your brain up, down, and across the 8 different ways that you just got screwed out of something that you would put all your hope on top of. Like, come on. They never say the real thing. You know, they never acknowledge that there's a sense of grief and anger and frustration, and it will test your faith and all of that stuff. You know, they just, it's all bullshit. So I stopped watching those because I wasn't getting anything out of them, and I did what I'll sometimes do when I'm feeling really shitty, which is I retell myself the story of how I got my job in news to remember who I am before anybody else was paying attention to who I am. Because it's kind of a ballsy story, and I don't act like how I did back then anymore, and I thought it was a good reminder of how I should be acting because it worked. And we talked about this on Patreon. The hair is all over the place today. I've given up. Patreon Steve saw me walking downtown today. I was exercising and the hair was all like this, and he called me to tell me I need to brush my hair, and Patreon Steve heard a lot of unchristian words flown back at him through the phone. So that's how that worked out for him. And then he told me his daughter was in the car and I was on speakerphone. But she's got to learn sometime. Okay. I asked on Patreon, I said, look, my mojo is like dead right now. My motivation is minimal. I am not feeling inspired to do anything. Like, what kind of video? And so we talked about, you know, I've shared the story of how I tricked my way into TV news because it's been a good reminder this week of how I should be doing things without fear of what someone's going to think. And I know that a lot of people are also in this space this year, and so I'm hoping that it's a story that will also spark joy, as Marie Kamananando says, for others. All right, here's the deal. I went to several colleges. I won't get into all that, but I ultimately graduated with a business degree. I had taken several gap years to go work. I did great in college. I was like magna ultra super, you know, superpower, cum laude, whatever, all that. I got really good grades, but I hated it because I'd been working since I was 12, and so I figured out the relationship between time, effort, and then money. And so college to me was just this worthless exercise. And I don't drink, and I didn't drink in college, and I just found it socially difficult, and to me it was just this time sink. To me it was taking $120,000, because I started off in an Ivy League school, and burning it in the backyard. That's what college was to me. So I finally graduated, but because I took 2 gap years to go work and travel and like do other stuff, I timed it flawlessly. I mean, just flawlessly, by graduating in 2008, right at the peak of the recession. So in my business school, I had fellow classmates who were going to work at hedge funds in New York for an ungodly amount of money, considering that their only real skill was beer pong. And then they were getting laid off. And it was bleak. And I didn't really understand what a recession was or what caused it. I just knew that I wasn't getting a job. And so I was valeting cars at a steakhouse in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was the bartender at our campus's beer pub. We had one of those. And oddly, and they hired me, the girl who doesn't drink, because they knew I wasn't going to steal any beer from it. And so that's like how I ended my college career. I had no job, I had nothing to do, and I'm valeting cars and pouring beer for unemployed college students and professors. It was dreadful. So out of sheer boredom, I went to the career services and was like, I just gave you all this money, like, find me a job. And they said, the only thing that we have available for students who've graduated is you can go do an internship, and the only one that's not taken is the one at Channel 5 WMC TV in Memphis, Tennessee. And I was like, okay, whatever, like, if it gets me out of doing this. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I thought the reporters sucked. I couldn't stand just like the environment, the makeup, I take that back about the reporters. There were some of them that I thought were really amazing, but I just didn't like the fakeness. You know, the talking in a voice not found in nature, and referencing things over your shoulder, and like the drama and the hype, and And so there were a couple of them that weren't like that at all, and I got along with them great, but above that, it wasn't my speed. And I was with a bunch of other interns there who were from journalism schools, and I was from some liberal arts business school, Rhodes College. And I came in jeans and a t-shirt, and they were like in their little suits, and I didn't know how to do anything. I couldn't help anybody. I'm just gonna ride this out. I have nothing else to do on board. But I became really good friends with their best videographer, and one of their dayside reporters, Andrew and Mike. And we just like that. We got along. I mean, we talked so much shit when we were out in the field, and they were as like sarcastic and funny as I was. And I just absolutely fell in love with these two. I adored them. And so that was all I did. I didn't learn how to use the camera. I didn't learn how to write. I was totally worthless. But every day, the Three Musketeers would go out, and we had so much fun. So much fun. In order to finish the internship and like actually get credit that I did it, you had to do what all reporters have to do, which is make a resume reel. We don't really send paper resumes in TV. You send a reel of your work, like little snippets of your stories and your stand-ups and live shots and things like that. So you had to make one. So all the other reporters are like, writing their scripts and like practicing in front of their cameras and shooting things. And I couldn't be bothered with all that bullshit. Like, I was just here to have fun with Mike and Andrew. That was it. And like go in the hood and like get scared. And so Mike offered to make this thing for me, and he was the best videographer that I still to this day have ever met. I mean, truly gifted. He now works at St. Jude. Actually, you met him when I did the story on St. Jude. He's brilliant. And I was like, yeah, man, fine, like that'd be great, because I have no intention of actually working in this, so like I don't need to be bothered editing it or shooting it. So I would just totally plagiarize. Andrew would go write something and then do a live shot, and I'd just take his script out of his hand and then walk a couple feet away, and I'd just do it verbatim, and Mike would shoot it, and we made it look like I was a reporter, but I didn't write it, I just needed a thing that made it look like I did my internship. That was it. That was all I was in for. So I just plagiarized a bunch of stories, and we made it, and he edited together, and I looked like the female version of Brian Williams. I mean, he cut this thing. It was incredible. It had all these like fancy effects and all that. Now, the assumption when you submit a resume reel is that you have shot it, edited it, write it, you did the whole thing. That's why we're called one-man bands. I had done absolutely nothing. Nothing. We finish it, I submit it, and I was just, my plan was to move to Austin, Texas. The job market was in the shitter. Nothing was going on, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to move to Austin. I've never been there, but it's got to be better than Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm just going to go see what's there. I'll valet cars there or wait tables. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to leave. And I really can't understand, besides divine intervention, what happened after that. But towards the end of my internship, I just got this feeling that I had to go work in Wilmington, North Carolina at WCT News. It was one of the stations within our company. I'd only been to Wilmington once before, really briefly with my mother, and I didn't know of anything there. I had no connections there. I didn't know anything about Wilmington except it was at the beach. But truly, I had a moment. I just knew that I had to be there, and that's where I was going to try to get a job. And the thing that is odd is that I hated the news thing, so it was unjustifiable that now suddenly I was hell-bent on working in news in Wilmington. I had no reason to want to be in Wilmington, and suddenly, of hating this whole internship, now I was like in it to win it, but only for Wilmington. I didn't want to send my resume anywhere else. It was really bizarre. I look on the company's website, and there's no jobs opening in Wilmington at all. And so I sent an email straight to the news director. I skipped right over HR. And he said they're not hiring anybody. And this feeling just did not leave. Like, I just had to be there. I had to be there. So I got my tip jar at the bar, the college beer thing that I was working at, and I put the words plane ticket on a piece of paper in front of my tip jar. And anybody who bought beer from me for the next couple weeks. I told them that I needed that tip because I needed to buy a plane ticket from Memphis, Tennessee to Wilmington, North Carolina, because I had to go get a job there, and the plane ticket was like, I think $657. It was something like that. Really expensive. And so I told everybody, and I saved up $657 from tips. And it was fun because when I told people why I needed the money, like, I suddenly started getting way better tips. But damn it if I didn't pour a lot of beers and I got that money. And I remember the day that I bought that ticket. The only ticket that was even low enough at $657 was a red eye. So I had to be on the plane in Memphis at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I am a jeans and t-shirt girl. Hello, okay? Like, this is the standard operating procedure. I don't like getting decorated. I'll do it, but I don't enjoy it. I had never worn makeup, like for real makeup. I didn't own a dress. I never walked in high heels, and now I'm gonna go strut into a TV station where like everybody is fancy. And it's for, I thought I just heard somebody walking over there. It's for a job that doesn't exist. So I've got to dress to impress. My girlfriends, God love them, we spent nights walking across their apartment floors trying to teach me how to walk in high heels. I looked like a baby giraffe. I'm like all wobbly on these things. I didn't have a dress, so my friend Lauren let me borrow a dress. She gave me a dress. I looked like methamphetamine Little Bo Peep. This thing is pure white with a blue sash, total like debutante dress, and like big lacy puffy sleeves. Can you imagine on me? Big puffy and like big like shoot out the bottom lacy tiers. Not professional suit. No, straight up Little Bo Peep. If I had a staff, I could have herded some kind of animal down a hill. I mean, it was ridiculous. But I didn't have time. Like, I just had to get this done. I buy the ticket. I figure out how to kind of walk in high heels. My girlfriends kind of show me how to put makeup on. And I get this Little Bo Peep outfit. And I get on that plane. And I told them I was coming, and I told them that I was going to be in town, and can I stop by? There was no job. I was not invited to go. Nobody offered to talk to me, but I was going to be in town. Let me tell you something about Wilmington, North Carolina. It is at the end of the world. It's at the end of I-40. You don't just ever pass through Wilmington. Like, you have to deliberately go there. Except for all the people that send their heroin through Wilmington. They just pass through. They're passing through. And they were like, yeah, the news director, the boss. So he was like, yeah, if you're going to be passing through, like, sure, we'll show you the building. But again, there's no job. I get on that plane. What I didn't know about Wilmington, North Carolina is that right up the street, actually quite close to where I am, is Camp Lejeune, which is, I think it's the largest Marine base in the country. And so I get on this plane. I'm horrified by this dress, but I am like going there and coming right back. There's no staying overnight. So I have my hoodie on, and I had tucked the sleeves of this big puffy dress underneath the hoodie, and I had rolled up the bottom, all those tiers of lace, and shoved it underneath the bottom of this sweatshirt. And then I put sweatpants on because that's my normal that's my normal outfit. So I shoved Bo Peep underneath my big baggy sweatshirt and my sweatpants, and then I had my high heels on with the sweatpants. I mean, I was a sight. Stunning. I didn't care. It's a 6 a.m. flight. Like, who gives a shit? Nobody's awake on those flights. And I just needed to wobble off the plane, go to this building, and then wobble back on the plane. Like, no suitcase, no bag, no nothing. I had my wallet and my lacy frilly dress. That was it. I get on this plane. Again, I didn't know that Camp Lejeune was right up the street. And so apparently a platoon, or whatever the hell they call them, was like coming home that day, because the entire plane and coach is filled with the most yummy looking young men who are basically the same age as I am. all in their camo with their, like, you know, their duffel bags on their lap, the entire plane. And I get on with my big baggy stuff, the lace poking out everywhere it possibly could on me, and that's how I show up. I was like, sometimes I look at the sky and I'm like, you think you're funny, right? Like, that's cute. It's cute. It's funny. I get off the plane. One of the Marines, like, helped me wobble. I could not walk in these high heels. I drive to the Rite Aid down the street from the TV station, which I would later shoot part of my heroin documentary at that Rite Aid. So, like, we come full circle. I buy the pieces of makeup that my girlfriends had taught me that I need. I go to the back of the bathroom where people shoot heroin. And I put on, and I probably looked like, who's that crazy Christian lady? Tammy Faye Baker? I mean, like, no idea what I'm doing. Like, trying to get my hair. I pull off the hoodie, pull off the sweatpants. I'm just straight up Bo Peep. Throw it in the rental car, and then drive to the TV station. And when I get there, I am not welcome. The man at the front assignment desk, Doug, who I would later become friends with, Doug just kind of takes in everything that's standing in front of him right now. And I could see what was going through his head, like, this girl. So Doug and I are talking while I'm waiting for the news director to come around, and I'm so nervous. I'm terrified. Nobody was in the newsroom because it's in the middle of the day, so everybody's out on their stories. And I'm trying so hard to, like, keep it together and act like I belong there. And I could tell right away that Doug was sarcastic and funny. And because this doesn't edit very well, so Doug and I, like, start, like, you know, talking how I normally talk in real life, which is bad, so bad. I'm trying to get a job. I'm trying to impress people. And, like, Doug is bringing out just the real Casey Roman. And he said something about Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. And I said, yeah, well, Beale Street's not really good for anything besides cheap alcohol, cheap drugs, and cheap women. And around the corner comes this really gruff-looking man who I can tell right away is the news director. Doesn't smile, is totally unwelcoming, and he walks towards us and stops and, like, looks me up and down with not a look that's, like, not good. I was a mess. I was a train wreck. And he looks me up and down, and he looks at Doug, and Doug goes, hi, Mr. Brown. This is Casey Roman. She is here to see you today. She says that Beale Street is good for nothing but cheap drugs, cheap alcohol, and cheap women. And with that, Mr. Brown, the news director, who I had spent all this money to fly across the country to come, you know, dazzle, walked in his office and shut the door. I mean, I could have killed Doug. I spent the rest of my news career almost trying to kill Doug. And that's just how he is. So I'm like, well, great. There goes that. And he didn't come back out. A little while later, around the corner comes Jim Hanchett. Jim Hanchett was a world news correspondent. He is one of the greatest human beings I have ever known in my life. A phenomenal reporter. He came to a small market TV station because he was trying to retire and he wanted to get out of, like, the world news grind. And Jim comes around the corner and sees that I'm there and is like, okay, hi, I'm Jim. I'll give you a tour of the place. They gave me not even the Girl Scouts edition of the tour, like not even the tour that we give students. It was the fastest, like, here's the bathrooms, here's the lobby, here's sales, here's the studio, nothing. I didn't get introduced to anybody. I mean, I was not invited. I was passing through. And then finally he takes me into a conference room. And with him, he has a stack of resume reels. Remember that fateful resume reel? Of these resume reels of reporters who had actually gotten jobs there, who had been to real deal journalism schools, like who had experience and a clue. And and now these people, ironically, all the people in the stack are now dear friends of mine. But they had their pictures on their CDs. Yeah, we sent CDs. There was no, like, YouTube link. You just sent a CD. And their pictures are on the CDs. And I remember my BFF Claire, when he showed me hers, her hair was, like, all windblown. And there was a huge fire behind her. And she's got her microphone and she's screaming over her shoulder. That was her picture. And Gavin had this really intense, like, crime scene photo. And I didn't have anything on mine. Like, I just sent a blank CD. I didn't know. I didn't go to journalism school. Like, I didn't know. I just thought that being adorable would like work. So we talked for a bit and I had prepared. I was ready, right? I was ready. And Jim said to me, he said, see these people? They've been to journalism school. They have a lot of experience. They anchored shows for their campus TV network, which I didn't have because I went to business school. And he's like, they are who we hire. And I'll never forget, he said, you, at best, are a long shot. And if I were you, I would not put my eggs just in this basket. Like, here's my soul. But I was ready. I had prepared that he was going to, tell me that I was, I didn't expect him to say that, but like something. So I straightened all up in my chair. And I remember I was hitting the desk to make my point because I'm not very scary physically because I'm so small. But so I was like hitting my desk and I said, Mr. Hanchett, I don't care how much experience, pounding the desk, or how fancy someone else's resume or picture looks. There is no one who will do a better job than I will. And if a job opens up here, I want that job. That was how I did it. And I thought so serious. I wish I could have seen it in real life now because I'd probably been like, oh. And he just patted me on the hand and was like, thanks for stopping by. And that was it. And I went back out. One thing I forgot. By that time, some of the reporters had started coming back in, and they looked me up and down and were like laughing in their head. Cold, frigid. Ooh, bad. So the whole thing was a train wreck. I had spent $657, and it was a train wreck. It was terrible. So I remember I wasn't totally disappointed because there was no loss. Like, there wasn't a job, and I did what I felt like I needed to do, and I went back and I got in the car and wiped off all my makeup and shoved my dress back under my hoodie and got on the plane, and I got back to Memphis and I told everyone at the TV station I was interning at that that's what happened and it didn't work and that thank you for everything, but I'm gonna go to Austin. I'm gonna get in the car and I'm gonna go to Austin. And that was the plan. So I canceled my lease and I was packing everything up, and a couple weeks went by and then I was back at the bar for one of my last shifts to bartend there, and I had 2 weeks at that point before I was getting in the car and driving to Austin. And I got an email because I was looking for places to live while I was pouring beer. I got an email from Mr. Brown that said, we are opening a new position here at the TV station, WCT, an investigative position, and would you be interested? Now let me pause here and say, investigative journalism positions are something that only big TV stations do because they're so resource heavy. So that's something that you don't get to do until like your third job in a big city. They just don't do it in small markets. And Wilmington's a small market. Second, I'll say that it's a promotion position. That's the job you get or the promotion you get after you've cut your teeth on Turn and Burn Daily News, and now we're going to promote you to investigative so you get more time to work on stories. It is not an entry-level position, and it is definitely not a new person at that TV station position. That doesn't happen. Ever. Well, except that one time with me. So, I didn't know any of that at that point, and so I just said yes. They offered me a whopping $20,000 a year, which is nothing, and I didn't even care because I just knew that that was what I was supposed to be doing, and so I didn't give a shit. And so I said yes, and 2 weeks later, instead of driving to Memphis, Tennessee, I drove to Wilmington, North Carolina, and I showed up. They didn't know that I hadn't cut any of that reel. They didn't know that I didn't know how to use a camera or any of the editing software, and nothing. I got punched in the teeth, the throat, the side of the head, both the eyes, the stomach, and everywhere else for a solid year. The reporters were so not friendly because they figured out real quick that I was like a fraud, that I had no idea what I was doing. So I had negated all their experience by my even getting hired. And two, I got what they all wanted, which was the investigative position because they had been working for, a year or 2 years there. So I had hopscotched, leapfrogged right over all of them into a position that you're supposed to have experience. I'm sorry I have to do these edits. But my neighbor keeps coming out, and it's embarrassing to me that I am talking to myself on my phone in a trailer park. So I turn it off every time he comes out of his RV. He's not the one who's pissing me off. They're actually really nice. Anyway, so the reporters were ruthless. Like, there was no mentorship. Nobody wanted me there. It was a lonely, embarrassing, shitty time. That's what it was for a whole year. And I couldn't quit. I tried to quit. I couldn't quit because we have contracts in TV with liquidated damages, meaning if you want to quit, you have to pay them to quit. So I was making $20,000 a year, and if I wanted to quit, I had to pay $5,000. I'm not going to get into why those exist, but I couldn't quit. I didn't have the money to quit. So it was terrible, and I had to figure everything out, like throw her to the wolves style, because I would go to interviews and forget to press record. I had no idea. None. No clue. And about a year in, by learning the hard way for every single God-blessed thing, I just kind of hit a stride. And I stopped doing things the way that other people were doing them, and I started to create my own style that worked for me. And then, thank God I didn't quit, because I would have missed out on 5 documentaries, which I am so proud of. I would have missed out on every single officer that I got to work with, and it just wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't have had all those experiences. I wouldn't have this channel. There's so much I wouldn't have had. Now, there was a lot of that career that was really terrible, really bad, really bad. But I still wouldn't take any of it back. I'm now editing this, and I just realized that I forgot the most important part. I forgot the teachable moment. I'm sorry, it's been an awful week. At that year mark, when I finally started to figure things out, I reconnected with my internship news director back in Memphis, because I had been begging her to take me back because I was having such a horrible time. But now I was like kind of getting it. And she let me in on some details about what had gone on while I was on the flight back to Memphis a year prior, because I had said to her, it's crazy that a year ago I was you're a long shot at best, and like now I'm the investigative reporter. And she told me that when I left the Wilmington station, Jim called her and told her about the human dumpster fire that had just been passing through. Like, everyone knew that was a lie. And, what I had said and all that. And she told him, because I had told her, it wasn't a secret, I mean, it was what it was, but she told him about my tip jars. Actually, I had put 2 tip jars out because I wanted to make sure both sides of the bar got to contribute. But she told him that at my bartending job, I had put 2 tip jars out that said plain and raised $657 and got on the red-eye flight and came right back, and that I wasn't applying anywhere else. And she just filled him in on the backstory. Maybe to explain why it was so bad when it happened. And when, I guess they had been talking about this investigative thing for a bit, but later on, Jim then shared with me that he knew that if there was someone who was crazy enough to put out tip jars that said plain and raise that much money to get on a plane to go somewhere where they were not invited, not welcome at all, and to look someone dead in the eye and say, I want this thing, that on the toughest of stories and on the very worst days, that's the kind of person who would be able to do the job. Because a lot of that is reporting, is people have just died, traumatic things. You name it. You've got to be ready, and you've got to be able to be brave when everybody else isn't. Even when you're not, standing out in bad weather or standing out when there's an active shooter, you've still got to be able to have an iron set of lady balls. And he didn't use that phrase, I used that phrase, but he said that when he heard that was everything that I had gone through, just to be there for a half an hour, just to be told that I had no chance, that I was the kind of person who would be able to handle just about everything. And I don't want to sound like an egomaniac, but he's kind of right. And it was a huge gamble on me because I didn't have the actual skills. But Jim was one of those rare people that you meet, especially in the workplace, who saw who that person was instead of what they could do. And he took a big gamble on me, and I would like to think that it paid off. Okay, back to the story. And so I kind of retold that story to myself this week, and I'm telling it to you because there was a tremendous amount of grit involved and risk. And that I didn't know any better, and I wasn't worried about what HR thought, and I wasn't worried about what Mr. Brown thought. I just went for it with every capacity of me that I could. And I noticed with these projects that I didn't get this week, I think as we get older, we get so worried about being polite or what somebody's going to think, or are we going to tick off HR or whoever the project coordinator is, that we just, you almost stutter yourself because we become so aware of the other. And I've not gone for things. The van, that project, I mean, that wasn't like a job or it was a project. It wasn't a job. But, I went for that kind of like all in. And I need, that should be something to reclaim, is what I'm saying, is you have to be really gritty, and you have to really genuinely not care about embarrassing yourself for the big stuff that counts. And I've stopped acting like that. I've become terribly aware of what other people think, or that I don't want to spend the money on that kind of risk. And so that is maybe a lesson to like get back to that stuff. And I hope that is a helpful lesson to some other people, because without awareness and without worry of what it costs, some really good stuff happened. There's a space for that. And the other story I was thinking about this week, when I was in middle school, high school, elementary school, I did every sport imaginable. I wasn't good at most of them. But one of them was swimming, and in competitive swimming, we mistook my love of the water with being a competitive swimmer. Now, competitive swimmers have these long, limber bodies, and I do not. I am like small and fierce, but I am not stretchy and like graceful. If swimming was a contact sport where you jumped in the pool and then you swam under the other lane and like grabbed your opponent by their throat and held them underwater until the bubbles of life came out of their, like, I'd be good at that. Or, if you jumped in but like had underwater pellet guns, like I'd be good at that. But swimming, I was not, because I'm really short, and I'm like built like a steel tank. So I'm an anchor. Plus, for whatever reason in New Jersey, and when I was doing it, probably because we didn't have 50 different hashtag social movements, all of the sun is setting. I think it's like blurring me out here. All of the swim teams were co-ed. So you would be racing with a 16-year-old who was 6'3" dude. The second I jumped in the pool, I had already lost. It was not fair at all, but that's how it was. Anyway, the training in the summer for competitive swimming was Monday through Thursday, and they alternated the big kids from the little kids. So like the big kids were in high school and the little kids were middle school and under. And it was, you would either have the 7 a.m. slot or the 9 a.m. slot. And they rotated it so that no one group of kids was always having to take the shitty swim at 7 a.m. Even in the summer in New Jersey, it's still chilly in the morning. And so the pool was always like freezing cold. So nobody wanted the 7 a.m. swim. Unfortunately, the Romans all worked, and my parents were having none of this, like stop my workday to drop off my daughter at swim practice. So I had to do the 7 a.m. every single day. Now the problem with that was, one, I hated them because I had to wake up so early, but two, that meant that I had to swim with the big kids. And the big kids were in high school, so teenage dudes, and plus the girls were just, they were just like bigger and stronger. I'm gonna see if I can fix the light on this. I can't, whatever, y'all can deal with it. I would get in the pool. Nobody wanted me in their lane because I was a burden, because I wasn't physically fast enough. I mean, those bitches went through puberty. They had like boobs and hips and like muscular arms, and I was just this like tiny little anchor in the lane. Now, if you've ever done lap swimming, you know, you got a bunch of people in one lap, and the etiquette is if you are faster than the person ahead of you, you're supposed to gently tap their toes. No, these bitches like would straight up grab my feet and pull me down under, because they didn't want me in their lane. Nobody wanted, in the high school big kids group, wanted Casey Roman to be practicing with them, because I was a burden. I was in everybody's way. And when we would be recovering from some kind of exercise, nobody would talk to me, and so I just resented the hell out of my parents for not allowing me to swim with my group, and then also just everyone in that practice every other day, because they were so mean and awful. And I just got killed. I mean, I was red in the face the whole time. I couldn't keep up with them. I lost every heat. I was terrible. It was just really defeating. But about halfway through the summer, I noticed that when I would practice with my group, the B group, the younger kids, I was suddenly getting really good. I wasn't just like a good swimmer, but I was one of the better swimmers. And it's because I had to practice with people who were way better than I was. And yeah, again, I just got punched in the teeth every other day, and I lost every heat. But I got pushed so much harder because I was the worst. And so when it came time to actually compete, I did way better in all the heats from my age groups, because I was swimming with the big kids. And so I thought a lot about that this week, is that I haven't pushed myself to swim with the big kids because I have been the big kid. I was the best editor and writer at my TV station. I mean, I can edit and write in my sleep. I can shoot video in my sleep. It's not hard. I can teach other people to do it. No, I don't even think about it. And yeah, there's some things I could do better. Sure, you can always learn. But I've not like really jumped in the pool, in the scary pool of anything, not just video, but I haven't pushed. The biggest thing I've done is learn to tow up a mountain, and like anyone can do that. But I've not jumped in a scary pool in a really long time, like years. So, two things. I need to find something that's a really big risk, because I need to get, slapped around a little bit in order to do really good work again. And that might not be in video. It may be in something totally different. And two, somebody has got to stand behind me on that block, like when you get up on the block and you put your head down and you grab the block and you lean all your body weight so you can propel off, and just kick me right in the ass into the heat with all the swimmers, metaphorically speaking, who are so much better than me. That stuff hasn't happened in a while, and it is terrible when you're going through it, and then when you get through it, you're so glad that someone kicked you in the ass, and that you had to really, really fight to own your space with a group of people who are just better than you and who might not want you there. So anyway, I've not survived a terminal illness. I'm not a war hero. I'm not a celebrity. I don't have any of the qualifications for any motivational video that gets 350 million views on YouTube. But I also can't relate to any of those people. So those are the stories that I'm telling myself this week about how to get past this shit of a year, 2020, and how to do something better going forward. And I know that some of y'all are dealing with the same exact nonsense. And so I hope that in telling you the story of how I tricked a TV station into hiring me with 0 qualifications, by taking a huge risk, and by being in the scary pool, that's the stuff that I'm going to work on to try to improve everything that has fallen apart this year. And I hope that in some capacity that is relatable enough, if everything has gone wrong for your year, to help you get in the scary pool with me. Now, going forward, I asked about some ideas for a topic for a live chat, and I didn't get any besides somebody asked, why do you call the War Wagon the War Wagon? And it's because one of our vice units calls one of their cars the War Wagon, and I just adopted that because it's witty. But nobody made any suggestions, so I'm not sure if there's any interest in doing another live chat. I'd prefer to not just get on there and like wait for someone to ask questions. Like, I'd like to have kind of a theme. The other idea that we've been kicking around on Patreon is I get a whole lot of questions, and I have done some individual coaching, one-on-one, phone, Skype, whatever, Zoom, of people who have really gotten themselves into a financial predicament, but who want to travel, who want to do RV, or who want to just do other things and can't figure out their way out of that financial. Now, I am not a financial advisor, but I started my career at $20,000 a year. I have lost my career and figured out how to travel. I bought a $250,000 house and turned it into the Babe Cave and sold it. So I'm not like, I don't have any certificates, but damn if I am not savvy with a dollar bill. So I have helped some people, like, talking through their financial decisions to help them cut out the bullshit, the financial nooses that they wrap around their neck and then like can't figure out how to get out of. And so we thought about doing a series of, if any of y'all want to call, we'll talk on the phone, but you have to agree that I'll record it. I will hide your identity. To talk through like some of that stuff about what's keeping you from getting an RV or traveling or doing anything like that. Or we can do it via email, something like that. But we were going to call it, the idea that we came up with on Patreon was Budget Boot Camp. Because that is the number one thing. You know, it's fear, always fear. But also, I don't have the money. Or, you know, here's my list of excuses about money, about why I haven't done it. So, input about that would be fantastic one way or another. I need something to kind of spark my mojo again about producing videos, because it's just been a really difficult week to, you know, have your own through loss, your own motivation kind of taken away, and then like try to show up and look, or at least come across as for your YouTube channel, right? So, oh God, this woman is driving her dogs around in the golf cart. God love her. Trailer parks, RV parks, they're just, it's a different way of being, y'all. Anyway, all right, that's all I have to say today. The sun is in my eyes, and I'm getting swamp ass from sitting in a plastic chair with sweatpants. My new plastic chair that is mine, all mine. If you want it back, maybe clean up your shit before a hurricane. Bye, weirdos.